For a 3-2-1 contact teacher's guide,
not the same height.
I think we are, Miguel.
Hey, what's this?
That came in the mail today. It's for you.
Hey, it's from Aunt Florinda.
From San Juan?
Yeah. Right.
Paco, what are you doing?
I'm unwinding this old baseball.
Is that string inside?
Yeah, here, hold this. I want to see how long it is.
Hey, it's a sweater.
It's beautiful. Do you think she made it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it look a little small? Try it on.
Hey, I haven't seen Aunt Florinda in 5 years. Oh, no. She probably still thinks I'm 11.
Well, maybe it would fit Paco. Yeah.
Sometimes it's really important how something fits. The people who make spacesuits have to take a lot of very precise measurements.
You have 5 foot 8 1/8 inches, 82.5 centimeters.
5 foot 7.
We take these 28 measurements and we'll build you a spacesuit, but you've got to bear in mind something that happens in weightlessness, and that is the body grows.
Wait a second, you're telling me that in space you're actually going to get taller?
That is actually correct. That is true. You're going to get taller in the portion of your body that allows you to get taller. And we know from experience that people get taller in their spine. What we would do is we would take the suit that we built for you, put in a 1-inch longer section, and allow for this growth.
That's Brian Pacheco, a spacesuit engineer.
Back here and pick out a waist section for you.
Listen, Brian, why are there so many pieces? Why don't you just make, like, one arm instead of making an arm and a wrist and a hand, a glove, whatever?
Ah, that's a good question, Miguel. I'll tell you why. By making these in smaller pieces, and each expendable, basically, what we can do is we can fit a whole bunch of people. Take, for instance, yourself and me. I could probably use your arm length, but you might not necessarily be able to use my waist length. Because I might have a longer waist, you might have a shorter waist, yet your arm length might be the same as mine.
So if you were making up my suit, I could use your arms.
That's right.
But somebody else's waist.
That is exactly correct.
That way you don't have to custom make any one suit for one person.
Exactly.
Oh, so it's all modular.
That's exactly right. And by doing that, we were able to take the smallest female, maybe a woman 5 feet tall, build her a suit, and yet get a man 6'4" and build a suit for him by just going shopping.
Why are you filling this up with air?
Well, we're basically filling this up with air to make sure that the suit has no holes in it. Because if you had a hole and you couldn't keep the air in the suit, you would die.
Oh. When the suit is filled with air, it grows a little. So they have to measure everything again to make sure it will still fit.
Yeah, how does that figure out there, Joe?
Okay, we're coming out within less than 1/8 of an inch of what we predicted, so it's good for the run that you're getting ready to do.
What we've done here is we've taken the air out from within this box to create a vacuum, which basically simulates space. Tap on into those 2 little structures there.
Now move this down.
Yeah. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that seems pretty easy.
Can you grab onto that item that we have in that little roll with either hand? Okay.
Yeah.
You have any problems there?
No, it's
Okay.
just a little
So
stiff.
we've got to bear in mind that this fixture that we have here is just to check the gloves out, not the rest of the suit now. You don't have the rest of the suit on. Okay?
Then I started to put on the suit they made for me.
Hop up and down to get it all in the right spot. Great. Feel good?
Yeah. Okay.
Now, before you get in here, you have to put these thumb loops on your thumbs.
Okay.
I'm going to hold these arms up. You stoop down and then push
I gotta
yourself
get under?
up. Right.
All right.
Suit technicians Gene Alexander and Carolyn Johnson helped me get into it. It wasn't easy.
Right there. Good.
I'm here.
Take these sun lifts off. Okay, before you do that, we have to hook up your cooling system.
Oh.
Sure.
Oh. That's
Does that feel
cool.
good?
Yes, it does. What about if it gets too cold?
If it gets too cold, then this is what this is for. This is full cold here, and you turn this around to whatever makes you feel good.
Okay.
It took about 2 hours to put the suit together, with me inside it.
And helmet coming up.
Okay.
Back a little. Watch your nose. Okay.
Then they filled it with pressurized air.
The helmet's on now. You have a series of sunshades that will help you should you be subjected to a lot of light. There's one on this side, a gold visor. You have one in the center.
Oh.
And then you have a visor on each side to help block out light should you need it.
This is great. I feel like Darth Vader.
Okay, can you reach those? Right up here? Yeah, right here. Great.
Whoa!
On Earth, the suit weighs more than 200 pounds. In space, it doesn't weigh anything.
Measurement. Who can figure it out? Do we need this many ways to measure things? You got your basic wooden ruler. Isn't that enough? 1 foot long, 12 inches, all marked off. Easy to read, easy to use. You can even get a ruler made out of metal or plastic in red or yellow or white. All the same length. Unbelievable. Rulers are great. Yardsticks are great. Same thing, only longer. 3 feet, 36 inches, 1 yard. Simple, clean, leave it alone. But no! They had to get fancy. A yard wasn't long enough. So what do we have now? Tape measures. Big tape measures. Little tape measures. All kinds of tape measures. Inches are great. But suppose you don't like inches. You don't like to say the word inches. Well, you're in luck. Because there's another whole way to measure stuff. It's the metric system. You can measure stuff in meters. Looks like a yard, but it isn't. The whole system is based on this, the meter. You just divide it or you multiply it by 10 or 100 or 1,000. And everything has the word meter in it, in case you forget what system you're working in. But what's that? You don't like meters either? You don't like meters or centimeters or inches or feet or anything? Well, this is your lucky day, because you can be the first to try out my all-new banana measuring system. You want to know how long something is? You just take a banana and measure with it. This bureau is 4 bananas wide. And the best part is when you're finished measuring, you can eat the banana. Now this is a measurement I can understand.
Let me tell you a story about a piece of lumber that is known as a 2x4. It started out as a tree growing up in the forest till one day it became a board. Well, it was 2 inches thick and 4 inches wide, but it's not the same size today. As the years went by, it kept getting smaller, 'cause some wood got shaved away. Is it still the same? No, it's not the same, though 2x4 is still its name. Oh, for a If you go to build a house, be sure you measure, 'cause the size is not the same. Oh, the real dimensions of this piece of lumber keep a changing every day. Now it's 1.5 by 3.5, but how long will it stay that way? Is it still the same? No, it's not the same, though 2 by 4 is still its name. If you go to build a house, be sure you measure, 'cause the size is not the same. No, the size is not the same.
Did we measure this one yet?
Nope. Yes. No. I don't know.
Well, does that mean we have to start all over again?
I guess so. This doesn't seem like the most efficient way to do this, does it?
I found the yardstick.
Oh, good. Coming through.
In the old days, people measured things by comparing them to parts of their own bodies, like their feet. A foot was really a foot, and a hand was really a hand, the width of 4 fingers. We still measure horses in hands. A horse is about 15 hands high. An inch came from the width of a thumb, and a digit was a finger's width. A cubit was the distance from your fingertip to your elbow, and a yard was from the tip of your nose to the tip of your finger. We still measure cloth this way. If you held your arms out, the distance from middle fingertip to middle fingertip was a fathom, and that's what we still use to measure water depth. A stride is a step, and a pace is 2 steps. Your body was good to measure stuff against, and you always had it with you.
Getting tired yet?
No. This is great.
You will. You can really start to see the features from here, Kathy.
Oh, you can. I'm climbing Mount Rushmore with Bob Chrisman of the National Park Service. George Washington's head has a crack in it, and we have to measure it. The noses look so big.
Yeah, well, they are big. The whole faces are about 60 feet high.
Who made it?
A man named Gutzon Borglum.
And did he carve it out of the rock?
He used dynamite.
With dynamite, he got it that exact looking?
They got to within 3 to 6 inches of the finished surface with the dynamite.
That's incredible. You go up here every day then to measure.
No, once a month for the stress measurements.
How long did this take to do?
It was done over a period of 14 years.
How long have you been taking measurements of it?
Oh, for about 4 years now, we've been monitoring this crack.
Oh, there's Lincoln over there.
Right.
And this is Jefferson right
This is
here?
Jefferson with the big nose. Yeah, this is the back of George's head. Here's the crack we'll be measuring. Starts clear back there. Runs about 50 feet over the top of his head and down here above his eyebrow.
Could part of his head fall off?
Well, it's very unlikely.
We're measuring the width of the crack, not the length?
Yeah, we're measuring the width and how much the rock is moving laterally also. We don't know how deep this crack is. We don't know how much eventually this will move. First thing we have to do is get our safety gear set up. Tie your webbing to this pin right here. Now we'll give these ropes a tug to see if we're all right.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's good. This is a typical crack, one that's easy to monitor. And these are natural fissures that are in the rock. Millions of years ago, this crack developed.
So you fill it in with clay or something?
Well, this is a mixture of granite dust, white lead, and linseed oil that Gutzon Borglum devised to seal the mountain. This is put in to keep water from getting in the wintertime and freezing. And as you know, water expands and will eventually break the rock. That's one of the natural processes of granite breaking down.
Well, how exactly do you measure it?
Well, we use a strain gauge that measures in 10,000ths of an inch.
10,000ths of an inch? That's important, down to that precise a measurement?
Yes.
How does the gauge measure the distance?
Well, it measures the distance through the use of the dial and the instrument inside here.
Oh, I see. This
It's
part.
a spring device.
I guess really you couldn't use a ruler or anything. If you're down to 10,000ths of an inch, you couldn't see that with your naked eye, could you?
Right. The gauge has points on each end, and those are put into these stainless steel bolts.
Are these just something you hammered in when you first started measuring?
In 1980, these were put in permanently with epoxy. If you will write down this reading that I give you.
Okay.
0.0226. You know, how does that compare with what the other one I've got written down
Well,
there?
it's a bigger number. The other number was 0.216. So does that mean the crack is getting bigger?
Okay. Well, that just means that it's bigger today. The temperature variation, the weather, the time of year, everything plays a part in how much this fluctuates.
So it doesn't matter if it's a little bigger today as long as it's not a little bigger next time and the time after that. The only thing you're really worried about is a trend happening.
Right, right. Now, the purpose of taking two measurements is because we want to get a triangulation on this. We want to detect movement across the crack and also lateral movement, see if the rock is moving from side to side.
So you go across the crack from this one and then across the crack from this one.
Right.
Isn't that funny that on a thing this huge, it's important to be precise down to that tiny a measurement?
You bet. 10,000 years from now, we want the sculpture on Mount Rushmore to still be here, and that's what we're striving for.
Whenever there's trouble, we're there on the double. We're the Bloodhound Gang. If you've got the crime, we've got the time. We're the Bloodhound Gang.
Want to see me do my Houdini escape?
I'd rather see you disappear.
Come on, Vicky, watch.
Just tell me if you want me to. Unlock all that stuff.
Iron chains can't hold the great Ricardo.
You the Bloodhound Gang? Did you catch a dangerous criminal?
A lot of them.
Ricardo's not one of them. He's one of us. What's your name?
Tracy, I'd like to find out if there's a criminal named Professor Quid.
A new one on us. How do you spell it?
Q-U-I-D.
Sounds like a phony one to me.
Skip, run Professor Quid through the computer and see if Mr. Bloodhound has anything on him. What did he do?
Nothing yet, but I think he's trying to swindle my grandfather.
How?
With the money-making machine.
A counterfeiting scheme?
He told my grandfather the contraption is guaranteed to make real money.
No, nothing in the computer memory on a Professor Quid.
Sounds like a bunco game.
Gramps is the gardener at the Perry estate. Professor Quid's due there in about 20 minutes to demonstrate that money-making machine.
I'd like to meet this Professor Quid.
And I want to see that money-making machine.
Wait for me.
Here are the keys, Ricardo. You'll never get... How'd you pull all that Houdini stuff?
Us magicians never tell.
Smell the flowers? We fooled them into thinking it's summer.
Beautiful, sir.
Tracy, I'm happy to meet your friends, but we don't need detectives.
But Gramps, we don't know anything about this Professor Quid.
We were in the war together, the South Pacific.
But you don't remember him.
And that was more than 40 years ago. But he remembers me, doesn't he? He's going to a lot of trouble to look up his old shipmates and make us all rich. Tracy, with that machine of his, I can bring you up right. College, everything you need.
I think you're bringing me up just fine, Gramps.
Let him in, Tracy, and let's keep an open mind about that thingamajig.
You'd hardly know it's just barely spring.
But it's a fine July day here on the glass, eh? See what the thermometer says.
"85 degrees, sir."
I get it. The glass lets the sunlight in, but traps the heat.
Exactly.
Shipmate, I understood that this would be a private meeting.
Your secret will be safe with my granddaughter.
And my friends.
Did you bring the money-making machine?
Excuse me.
Sappy-looking contraption, Gramp.
I see we have a young skeptic among us. Behold, Professor Stanley Quidd's Little Fort Knox, a magic machine that changes base newsprint into genuine $20 bills.
Magic?
Yes, my young friend. You are about to see the darkest magic at work. Be so kind.
Just what are you a professor of, Professor?
The ancient arts, my child. The ancient arts. Watch and behold.
It's turned into a $20 bill.
You have witnessed a miracle.
Let me see.
Oh, certainly, old friend. I know what you're thinking. Counterfeit, eh? Funny money?
Looks right. And the paper feels right.
Gramps, I think we should take it to the bank first and have them examine it.
Be my guest. You understand, of course, that the machine is not for sale. But to my old shipmates, it's yours for 24 hours, no charge.
In 24 hours, we could crank out a fortune, Tracy.
And all perfectly legal tender.
Can't be.
All I ask is that you put out something of value, a token of your good faith, you might say.
But I have nothing of value except...
Your stamp collection? It must be worth $2,000 or $3,000.
How did you know?
I make it my business to know everything, dear child.
But my stamp collection is for Tracy, after I'm gone.
Well, you'll get your stamps back when I pick up my machine tomorrow. Agreed? Well, old shipmate, you go to the bank and satisfy yourself that the $20 bill is genuine. Then hand over the stamps to me, and the machine is yours for 24 hours. Thank you. I'll be back in an hour.
My name is Patricia Ann Hurd, and I am an electron microscopist. That simply means that I am able to operate an instrument called an electron microscope, which allows us to magnify things tremendously beyond what our own eyes can see, even beyond what the ordinary light microscope can see. I work at Fernbank Science Center in Atlanta. When I was a child, I loved to draw, collect bugs. I enjoyed working with small things. I enjoyed working with my hands. I still do.
There he is.
We live in two worlds, a macro world, which means all the things that we can see with our eyes, and a micro world, which means most things we cannot see with our eyes. In this micro world, we need special microscopes to see these things, like a light microscope and a scanning electron microscope. We also need the microscopes to measure the sizes of this small world. That's a termite. It's in its larval stages. Jennifer, what I would like for you to do is to see if you can measure that termite in the middle. See how much you can measure.
Say it's about 2/8.
Okay. If we were to measure an elephant, we would use a unit larger than an inch, such as a yard or a foot. Likewise, if we were going to measure something as small as this termite, we would have to use units much smaller than an inch, even smaller than a millimeter, such as a micrometer or a nanometer. All right, very good.
I would like to look at this, the pollen.
Let's take it inside, okay? What does it look like?
It looks like sawdust to me.
Under a light microscope, once you reach a certain magnification, things become very, very blurred. That's because we have reached our limit of resolution. Now, if we look at the scanning electron microscope, we can see things much clearer. It can give us much more detail. Here's the pollen of that iris. We're going to increase the magnification. Pollen come in various sizes, and they have various effects on people. It is now magnified 400 times. One thing that an SEM can be used for is to identify the various kinds of pollen in kinds of plants. It's now magnified 15,000 times.
How much does it really measure?
Let's find out. First of all, let's take a millimeter ruler and measure it. It's 10 millimeters long, and the magnification is at 100 times greater than its size. And that will equal out to 100 micrometers.
Can we look at the termite?
Okay.
Why can't we see more on this microscope than the one on the table?
The main difference between a light microscope and a scanning electron microscope is the kind of energy that it uses. A light uses light, of course, and an electron uses electrons. The electron beam is a very, very small beam. It allows us to get much more details, whereas the light beam is a much broader beam and would scan over the surface of a specimen. We are indeed happy to see you at our Atlanta Minority Women in Science meeting. I'm serving as president this year. As a part of our special meeting tonight, we are going to feature projects done by outstanding young ladies in the Atlanta area.
My name is Wayna Dabney, and the title of my project is Oxidative Enzymes in the Excisted Metacercaria from Macula regedana, Trematoda echinostomatidae. The title of my project is...
One of the most rewarding things about being in the area that I'm in is that there's always something exciting and challenging. It's a fairly new field of science, particularly for black women. I think the future for blacks and other women is tremendous.
Now, how much is this? How many cups?
That's 2 cups of sugar. I already used 1 cup here. 3 sticks of butter, 3 cups of sugar. No matter what I do, I can't stop measuring.
Well,
don't tell anybody that.
I have eaten some of this cake. I just didn't see you bake it.
Okay, 1. Okay, right there. Got it?
Yeah, I got it.
That's it. That's all the string.
It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. How far are we so far?
120 yards. That's 360 feet. We're not even halfway through yet.
Could you guys, hurry it up a little?
What?
Well, there's this show on at 5:30 I'd like to see.
What?
Or maybe you could just finish up here.
Maybe we could finish up here?
Paco?
You know what else is one long string?
What?
Sweaters.
No!
321 Contact is a production of the Children's Television Workshop. For a 321 Contact Teacher's Guide, write CTW 2712 Millwood Avenue, Columbia, South Carolina, 29250.